All right, everybody, how y'all doing tonight? I want to thank y'all for tuning in to One Objective. Guys, we've been starting to do these Tuesday nighters, and we've been having a good time with it, just kind of getting on here talking with everybody about fishing. But, James, how you been doing, man?
Oh, pretty good. How about yourself?
Oh, not too bad. Ready to get back out on some water. I've been kind of depressed about the last couple of times I've been out fishing, and I'm ready to kind of redeem myself, you know? Did you have time to get
I
out and
hear you.
do any fishing this last weekend?
No, I didn't.
You're killing me, man.
I was hoping to, but didn't. But I will be out this weekend for sure.
Yeah, you're gonna be fishing English choice.
Yep.
Mm.
I'll be
So
fishing the English Choice Tournament this weekend at Smith Mountain.
yeah, so that's gonna be a good event. I know Brian Humphreys and them. They weighed in 20 some pounds for the Dale Wilson benefit tournament that the Basscast did. So it was some pretty good looking bags
Yeah.
that was brought in. So um, I think the English choice tournament's gonna set up for a good event with big fish being brought in. It's getting that time of the year, man. It's fish are starting to really feed up good. They're moving, and we're getting cooler nights and shorter days, and they know when to start moving.
Oh yeah. They move when the shad moves.
That's
So
right. So yeah, it's time to start chasing and picking up from the summertime spots and start moving into that early fall transition. But guys, I want to thank everybody for tuning in for our last couple shows that we've been starting to do this, and we've had some great interaction with our listeners. We've had a lot of great messages on Facebook and Instagram. I do apologize for the contest. I haven't got it up. I'm working on that tonight. I was actually working on a little bit before I got the show going. Uh, James is going to get a picture of the baits that we're going to put in for the contest. I didn't get no. I got a couple more pictures in. I didn't get them up tonight. I will have them up for our next Tuesday show. Just with work and everything, it's been kind of crazy. So, um, but we got a great show lined up for you guys. This is if you consider yourself a pro athlete, or I mean a pro athlete, a pro fisherman. Um, this show might not be for you. I mean, we're gonna break it down to the basics of bass fishing and just where you need to start. If you really look at fishing in a whole, as you go into like a Bass Pro Shops and you're like, where do I start? It's pretty overwhelming. Don't you agree, James?
oh, it could be if you walk into a store. It would overwhelm me walking into a Bass Pro or something like that. But now I walk into Bass Pro and I'm not too impressed.
That's what I was going to
but
say. But
hey, you're like, man, there's nothing here for me.
yeah, everything's online. And when you ask somebody, hey man, I'm looking for such and such worm in this color. Oh, we don't stock that. You have to buy that offline. I'm like, are you serious? Why am I here? Why do I come to your stores when everything's online anymore?
Absolutely.
But so yeah, we're going to be going over the basics of bass fishing, and we're going to really break them down. We got 4 or 5 top techniques that I think that when it goes to bass fishing, when we're breaking it down, there's 2 main rods that you should have, that you should at least start out with. That way you're not tying and tying and tying and tying and tying so many times trying everything. So we're going to get in that in just a little bit. First, I want to thank all our sponsors that's helped us out with this, with our journey so far with One Objective. We've got some really great companies that back us, that help us out, getting us product to shoot video with or to use, or it's just so much that goes on with these companies and how they help us out in so many different ways. And guys, we got them at the top of the screen there as they flip through. You can also go into bottom of the comments and click the link, and you go into comments and we have links to all our sponsors. But I want to thank Bonafide. I want to thank Yak Attack. I want to thank Falcon Rods, Missile Baits, AccuCoal, Ray Marine, Power Pole, and I got something going on here. Sorry about that. But anyways, we got so many great sponsors that help us out, and we're very appreciative to all of them, guys. Please check them out and check out all their products. So, James, I'm getting some back feed through your phone, or through your. I don't know if it's just the phone line or what. I don't know what it is. I don't know if anybody else can hear it or not, but maybe it's just I can hear it through this. But anyways, we're gonna get all this set up soon, guys. So if y'all got any kind of noise issues on my end, on James' end, just stay with us. The show's gonna get better. I promise. We're gonna set up Skype. Working on that this weekend, so we can see James's beautiful little mug on our next show, hopefully. So, but other than that, I'm gonna quit running my mouth. We're gonna kind of get into a little bit of some MLF talk, James. So, you want to kind of go in? I don't want to put you on the spot, but kind of talk about some of the new people that are coming in. I know you've been keeping up with it pretty well, and everybody that's coming in and all that.
Well, pretty much it's like every big name in the sport is coming into the MLF. We had Andy Morgan, Ish Monroe, and Mike Aganelli just announced tonight that he's going to Major League Fishing. I'm trying to pull it up now, but
the Lee
just
brothers.
About every big name in the sport. Yeah, Matt Lee, Jordan Lee, Mark Daniels Jr.
Oh, Mark Daniels is going now?
Yep.
Wow. I didn't see that one
yet. It just popped up. Brandon Polinick, like I said, Andy Morgan, Jesse Wiggins, Justin Connell, Jordan Lee, Justin Lucas, Matt Lee, Brent Myers, Jason Christie, Brent Ayler, Shin Fukai.
Hey, good job on that
one. James Watson, Bradley Roy, Gary Clausen, Josh Berstrand, Wesley Schrader, Cliff Pace. I can never pronounce his name. I'll just skip over that one. Tommy Biffle, Casey Ashley, John Grigsby, Jonathan Van Dam, Bobby Lane, Aaron Martins, Luke Clausen, Kevin Van Dam, Brett Height, Stephen Brown, and James Elm, Takahiro Mori, Trevor Bannis, Randy Howell, Mark Rose, Gerald Swindle, Dean Rojas, Terry Scroggins, Jacob Porosnik, Greg Vinson, Russ Lane, Brandon Clowder, I think, David Walker, Cliff Crochet, Jacob Wheeler, Keith Crochet, Brent Chapman, Cody Meyer, Odd Defoe, Scott Suggs, Justin Atkins, John Murray, Roy Hawk, Mike McClellan, Jared Linner, Alton Jones, Michael Neal, Jeff Crete, Fletcher Shryock, Dave Lefebvre, Andy Montgomery, Randall Tharp, Gerald Spohr, Alton Jones Jr., Greg Hackney, Jason Lambert, JT Kinney, Chris Lane. This would be like 10 minutes of our show.
Yeah, we got the point. We got the point, but there's so many big names, man.
All the big names. It is crazy.
Yeah, and it's Bass Cat. They said I was waiting to see Josh Carter. Yeah, well, I'm still thinking about my decision. I know Fat Cat Newton. He said it was a bidding war on his name, and I think it might be going what's on mine. So, no, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna tell you what. I can't even catch a 20-inch fish in a kayak this year. So, My name is way off that list. If anybody would get to be
Yeah,
James before me.
I guess it's. I guess everybody has announced now. It's because the only one that's not on here is Mike Iaconelli. So,
Yeah.
and we know that he's going. So that will be all 80. That will fill the field of all 80 anglers.
That's crazy. Basscat said there's one more spot, but I don't know. I don't know if I know Ish put his up there. And Mark Daniels, I didn't know he did that today. I was kind of rolling through it today. I didn't know Mark Daniels went.
Yeah.
But
After Mike Iaconelli puts his on there, that should be everybody. As of there's 79 anglers listed right now, and Mike Iaconelli's not on here. So
yeah, that's crazy. I know they were saying that, and I seen something where they had all three organizations on Ike Live tonight. So I'm gonna have to listen to that, guys. I need to go check out Ike Live and listen to some of their shows. They have some stuff I'm like, but some stuff they talk about some good issues. And I've listened to a lot of Mike Iaconelli shows through the years. When I worked night shift, I was able to listen to my phone, and I would listen to his shows through the night. And there's always a discussion about, not gonna say every show, but there's several times where a discussion comes up about a angler. I don't know, what do you call it? A organization for the anglers. He's saying where it is Scott Martin. Yeah, I could see that. But there's a Ike talked about some issues. Other pros come in and talk about the issues. I know Kevin Short's been on there. He wrote an article, from what I understand, maybe a controversial article about the payouts in bass and the high entry fees and all that stuff. So this stuff was coming, and these guys were just waiting on something big to happen. And it's here, and it's everything that they've ever wanted, because it started by the pros that was having those issues. So I think this is going to be a good thing. A lot of people, and this is what gets me. And guys, I ain't gonna try to go. Me and James ain't gonna try to go on some big tangent about this, but and James, I mean, you can tell me how you feel about it, but these guys, they sit there and talk about people abandon ship, and they talk about they want to see this flop. We'll see all the. Don't worry, guys. In 3 years, all the pros will be back fishing this stuff. We ain't got to worry about this MLF stuff no more. Why do they want to see it flop? That's what gets me. That's what I don't understand. Some people they don't like change so much that they want to see things not work. And the thing is, when you look at it, then you're too worried about yourself not wanting it to work than you are the people that you're rooting for and you look up to, because you want to see them succeed so we can keep watching them. And you don't want to see them guys fail. I don't like seeing none of these pros fail. Don't get me wrong. There's some that, I don't like as much. I'm not going to say I hate them or it's just, trying to talk to them and stuff like It's kind of tough. But I don't want to see nobody fail. That's their career. And some of these people, man, they take it seriously. Hardcore bass guys and FLW guys. I see some of the pros going there and making jokes about they don't want to go to a Dink Fest tournament. To me, that sounds like somebody that didn't get an invite. I mean, that's just the way it is. It sounds like somebody crying they didn't get an invite. I mean, what is your take on the whole deal, James?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's them being, kind of a little bit of babyish about not getting in or not getting asked. I mean, this is a big deal in the fishing world, and them doing this is going to make all the organizations probably a little better. So without this happening, I mean, I was talking to you earlier. They need this bad for the bass fishing industry, because I actually turned it on TV. I was going to watch Winning Ways on the Bassmasters, and ESPN, in my opinion, has ruined Bassmasters.
Yeah.
Just my opinion, because when I turn it on, I don't know if I've clicked on one Bassmasters that didn't have part of some type of
Soccer game.
soccer game or race or something like that involved with it.
Yeah.
And it's just, it bothers me because I want to watch that. I'm not really worried about a soccer game. I
Yeah.
didn't record all the series of Bassmasters to watch half of a soccer game before I can even get to it.
Yeah.
So
And that's the thing too. Like it's bad on the sponsors' part because now you got other events that are kind of taking over. Granted, I know them events probably paid more money to be there, and a lot of people are watching soccer or whatever. But they need to find another organization to air Bassmasters. And I've seen comments before too. It's like, okay, they just lost their top pros. Every top pro that they have. Now, I'm not gonna say every top pro. John Cruz, um, oh shoot, Keith Combs, it's several other ones. I can't name everybody. That Seth Fielder, all them guys, they're staying, and they're gonna do good there. But it's just, I don't know. They keep talking about, it looks like Bass is gonna get bought out again. Jerry McInnes and them, I think, are good people to own Bass. They're fishermen, they're outdoorsmen. I just think there need to be some changes to Bass, and I'm glad, like I say, MLF come in, got this. It's kind of, that would be like just having one car manufacturer. Let's just say Ford or Chevy, one of the two. I don't want to say Ford, and then I don't want to just say Chevy because I know how butthurt everybody gets. But just say if you had one manufacturer cars, I mean, they could jack their prices high. They could do whatever they want because there's no other big deal out there. And you figure when FLW started getting on the bandwagon of doing tournaments and stuff like that, and they started losing people, there was a few little changes on how they did the series in Bass. So we needed something else that was able to be middle ways to change FLW and Bass, and I think it's a good thing. Like you said, they needed it. So, but I don't want to go in too much further of it because we've been talking about this every Tuesday night, which I know it's a big deal. Now that everybody knows who's out there, I'm trying to work on getting a special guest for next week's show. So just kind of stay tuned for that. I'm still working with it, and hopefully, and it's a guest that everybody, if you don't like them, then I don't know what to say about you. You don't even like the sport of fishing. So, but if I can get them on, it's gonna be a great show, and that's all I'm gonna say about that one. I don't want to say no more, but I kind of want to talk about my weekend just a little bit on Sandy. I was in the one night stand that they had for the KBF national event. I mean, not national event. What am I talking about? The KBF challenge, and went in with intentions trying to make the top three. Casey, congratulations on your second place again. Thank you for taking another spot. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, man. It's all good, and congratulations on getting your points. I know you've been trying to make your top 10 on the whole big points spread here. So congratulations on that, man. I wasn't even close, anyways. And I had an incident. So I went out Friday night. I fished till about 12. Come back, took a nap for a little while, and go and get on a topwater bite because I was not getting a bite from when I put in to 12. Just little bites here and there. And lost something pretty decent. I don't know if it was a bass or what. So as I got it in the morning, start getting on a good topwater bite. First cast with a Zara spook. Boom, catch one 15 inches. Put that on the board. Going down. So I started doing a 1-2 punch. I'm throwing a Zara spook. And I'm working it down the bank. And if they missed it, I would normally I'd cast a worm out. But I didn't really want to deal with that. So I threw a spinnerbait and caught a couple that way. And then I cast out, I see a big one hit the Zara spook, and I cast the Spro Little John out. Hang him. He makes a run. He jumps. And all of a sudden he starts feeling like he's starting to let off. And he makes another run. When he comes up, hook comes out. So I go to put I see this crankbait making a line drive from my face. So I just kind of put my arm up like that. So I didn't have sunglasses on, which is a no-no. You should always have your sunglasses on. And then, boom, that right there happened. So I get a nice $10 crankbait in my hand. Now, it really doesn't look quite as bad. Painful, shall I say. It's bad. Not as painful as people would think it would be. So I ended up cutting this off, and I fished for another 2 hours with that piece of metal hanging out of my hand. But everybody kept on picking, man, just yank it out, man. Just do the braid trick, man. Don't get me wrong, guys. I weighed all the options here on getting this thing out of my hand. I was trying to wiggle it, but the problem is the back hook, or the one hook closest to my sleeve right there, was under the tendon. So every time I move it, I could feel it shooting pain through my finger. It felt like it was trying to pull my finger up. It was under my tendon. So I ended up having to go to the doctor. He had to move the tendon. He was doing something. I could feel him pinching, trying to move that tendon, and then he would pull it through. And luckily it didn't hurt too bad getting it out because he numbed me up real good. But anyways, that happens right there sometimes when them fish jump with crankbait. So you always be careful. I always recommend wearing sunglasses. For one, protection on the eyes with the glare of the water, but also flying lures from trees, fish, buddies casting. James, me and you've been there before, hitting each other with lures and stuff. I mean, it can happen. So always, that's just a rule of thumb. Always wear your sunglasses. But that right there could have been in my face. I ain't gonna lie, that would have been pretty bad. So I did put my arm up and caught it. So, anyways, I sucked it up in that tournament. I contemplated if I was gonna go fish Casey's Fall Classic. And I haven't fished all year for this. Why turn it down now? I didn't want to miss my son's football game, but this football game isn't really nothing towards your playoffs. So I decided just to go fish this, and I'm done for the year after that with fishing tournaments. But me and James will be getting into doing some more filming and how-to videos. We want to start doing some more of that for you guys. So stay tuned for that. That's another plug for our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button if you're viewing, and hit that bell so you can get all the notifications when we're coming out with another show or new video or whatever. You'll get the notifications on it. So James, let's kind of get into. I didn't want to make this show real long tonight. We're already at 22 minutes, and I said it was going to be a 30-minute show, and there we are again doing a long show. So let's kind of get into the basics of bass fishing. Let's go in and kind of talk about the top 5 baits. I think that when you go to, let's just say you go to Walmart and you want to get a combo. James, what are the two, in your opinion, what are the two combos that if you walk into Walmart and you see combos up on a shelf up there at Walmart? What are the two combo setups you think you should have? Before we even get into the bait selection, what are two combos you think we should have?
Well, I think you need a spinning rod with a medium tip, something real, not super duper light, but pretty light. And I would have some type of bait caster. I know a lot of people, when you're just beginning, you probably don't want to go move into a bait caster, but you can buy a bait casting rig for about under $100.
Yeah,
for a bait casting rig.
Yeah, and it all depends on which route you want to go. I'm gonna be honest with you. If you're gonna get into bait casting, at least, my opinion, I wouldn't buy a combo. If I'm getting not from Walmart on that. Now, if you go to Bass Pro Shop, sometimes you can get good combos with decent reels on them. But if you're going to get into using a bait caster, I would say, and this is me, and I know I'm throwing a sponsor plug out there, but this is because I believe in them so much. I'd at least get you a Falcon rod, and you can buy them at Walmart. At least they used to be able to. I don't know if you still can or not. And then go and look at like some of the Black Max or Silver Max rods. I'm not saying they're not the best reels out there, but this is where I'm getting at. If you get into a bait caster that's cheap, like a Shimano, I'm sorry, that's bad. A Shakespeare, not a Shimano. Shimano is a good bait caster. I guess we'll never get sponsored by them. But get a Shakespeare.
You won't.
No, I won't. A Shakespeare reel is just not. It's not gonna cut it, And some people might have them and they work out great for you. But I would at least get you a Black Max, because you can pretty much cast any lure out there you want, depending on the line that you put on it. But the first thing I would do if I bought one, it's gonna get you some hot sauce or a good oil and oil the bearings up real good, and grease the gears up, and make it really smooth. Because at the box, it's not that great of a reel until you do all that. Now I still use Black Maxes on stuff, especially like going to the river and stuff. Where I know I'm getting a lot of sand. It's a great reel. But so yeah, James hit the nail on the head there when he said a spinning combo and a good bait casting combo. So James,
Yeah, and
starting
I
off,
mean, I would stay with like
go
I
ahead.
would go with a medium heavy rod. I'd go with a medium heavy rod, something probably 7 foot on the bait casting rod, and probably what a 6.3 or so to 1 gear ratio reel.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, because I mean that way you can cover what we're going to be talking about here in just a minute. A 6.4 to 1, 6.3 to 1, whatever. That will cover everything that you want to. And you don't want to get it too confusing, um, because then you're kind of getting away, and you're like, man, this will spin you out. So, like I say, get your decent bait caster reel rod set up. Your spinning rod, it ain't got to be so crucial. But as you go on and you start progressing in the sport, it's good to you'll start seeing the more money you spend on some of this stuff, the better the rods feel. The more action, the better. Especially when you get into signature series rods and stuff like that. But I don't want to get into too far of that because then you're just getting it complicated again. So, good bait
Yeah.
caster, good spinning rod. Now, James, starting out with line. Let's say you go in Walmart and you get your 2 combos. What lines are you going to start out with on your spinning reel and your bait caster?
Well, I might would just, knowing what I know now, I would actually spend the money on some good line.
Yeah.
You know, but if I was going to start, I would not go buy a bait caster and go and put $20 spool of line on no reel on a bait
No.
casting rod.
Or a spinning reel, really, in that matter.
No, and really and truly, you could buy a thing of braid, like spider wire braid, put on your spinning rod, and then put you some leaders on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Exactly.
if that all else fails, I would just go put just some regular old string fishing line,
Yep.
mono, on it, and spinning rod I'd probably say from 8 to 10 pounds on it.
Yeah.
And the bait casting rod I'd go from 12 to 14 pounds.
Yeah.
Probably, and run it like that.
That's what I would do. Me with my setup, if I went in, that's what I would. It would be about the same thing. It would string. That's what I was gonna say when you said it was string. I'd probably go about 14-pound string on my bait casting rod. And for the two techniques we're going to show you, 14-pound test is perfect for what you'll be doing because it's enough strength there, and it's not too big and it's not too light when you make casts and get in and brush and stuff like that. So, and like I say, the 8 to 10 pound on the spinner reel is perfect. But I will suggest this: when you go in and you're just getting into fishing and you're learning the basics, get you 2 setups. I know some people just do not like throwing a bait caster because they keep backlashing. Go on YouTube. There is a lot of videos on bait caster setup. Me or James will probably be doing one here soon, teaching the basics of a bait casting reel, the setup, the braking systems, all that. So, but there's a lot of videos on YouTube on how to do that. And once you figure it out and get out in your yard, get you like a little rubber weight, or get you something that you can tie your line to, and just practice casting. That's all you got to do. And you'll get it, I'm telling you, because the only way you're going to learn how to do it is doing it. And you don't want to go fishing doing it because you're going to get frustrated because you just spend all this time going to the pond and your backlash, your line's way out there, all that stuff. So just go at home. You might look like a crazy redneck. I do it all the time during the wintertime if I get bored. and I want to keep a rod in my hand, if I ain't been fishing in a while, to keep flipping, keeping that rhythm, I'll go out there. People look at me like I'm a big old redneck out in my yard flipping a jig to a tree. But that's just things. That's just
You are a
things.
big old redneck.
Well, I know. Old country bunking, but but no, that's just things right there with those two rod setups. Because what two rod setups are going to do for you is it's going to save you time. So say you only get 30 minutes to go fishing a day at a local pond, because that's where I would start at if you're just getting into fishing. If you can do it, it's going to save you that time from having to tie on. Let's say you put on a Texas rig, and you're like, oh, crap, they're not hitting that. Let me put a shaky head on. So then you got to cut it and throw a shaky head. Oh man, they're not hitting that. Let me try to drop. So then you're just changing too much. With a bait caster, you can have either a Texas rig or a spinnerbait on, and then you can have a drop shot, a wacky rig, or a shaky head on a spinning rod. One of those two, and you can start from there and then make changes. So I always say bring at least two rods, and that way if one screws up, you got an extra one too, and you're not ruining your day on the water. So let's kind of go into the first technique here. This one's a wacky rig. Now, like I say, guys, if people that are tuning in now, if you know a lot about fishing, and this is the basics right here. This is the basics to bass fishing, getting started, not spending a lot of money, and this is where you want to start at. So when we're kind of going into it, don't think we're acting like everybody's a bunch of idiots. We're starting this to teach people how to get started into the sport. So it's very crucial. But James, can you see it right now? Is it popped up on your screen? I know it's a delay from YouTube from what we're actually showing right here on the thing. Up. All right, so this is your basic wacky rig setup. And James, you've done really well with wacky rigging like trick worms, Cincos, stuff like that. This right here, do you think this is probably if you've never really fished much, this right here is probably the best bait to go with?
Yes. I mean, it's just easy, simple. You would throw this on a spinning rod, and you can pitch it and skip it underneath trees and everything else. And you can also get weedless hooks, which help a lot too, especially if you're just learning, casting up in trees and stuff like that. You do want to probably go with a weedless hook.
Yeah.
But that is an awesome setup, and you're not just going to catch small fish with this rig. You are going to catch some giants.
Yeah.
On this right here.
Just the way it falls. If you ever get a chance to, where you got a little bit of clearer water to put in, just drop it right there and just watch this thing fall. It shimmies, and it kind of looks like a fish dying, or wounded fish or whatever. So, it's like James said, you take this thing, you can skip it under stuff, and you just let it fall a little bit, and then it's very simple. You just twitch it a little bit. Don't use your whole rod to twitch this bait. Use the line, because you'll have a little slack in your line. Just twitch your slack line, and it'll twitch that bait enough. But this is a good bait too, where you can actually, people don't think it, but you can actually cover a lot of water with this bait. Skip it to the main spots, let it sink, pop it a couple times. You don't get a hit, going to the next pole, on the dock or next tree or whatever. So, but anyway, sorry. But yeah, I mean, it's just a great bait. Now, color selection, James, what is let's say your top two selections when it comes to throwing a wacky rig, color-wise?
I would go with a green pumpkin. You always got to have green pumpkin. Anything green pumpkin's going to do well. And then I would go with probably a darker color like a black and blue. Those would be the two colors that I would purchase first. My third color would be a watermelon.
Yep.
But that would probably be the only three colors that I would buy. If I was to start over, I would start with those three colors and go from there.
Yeah.
But you can't beat those colors.
No. You can't beat them at all. They're great colors. That's why when you said black and blue, I was like, man, I'm surprised you didn't say watermelon. But then you followed it up with it. Yeah, that's when it comes to fishing, that covers all three watercolors: clear, stained, and dirty. But not only that, but times of the day as well. If it's cloudy or sun's out, any of that, you can kind of change that around. And that's just something you'll have to play with and get confidence in. But if you was going to go get a setup tomorrow with a spinning rod and line and that right there, that's the three colors I would buy, And I mean, you can use all kinds of different ones. They got Cinco by Gary Amagato. They got the Yum Dinger by Yum Baits. They got I don't know. Everybody Bass Pros everybody's got a Cinco, pretty much. So
yeah, a stick style bait.
Yeah, stick style. Then you can go with Missile Baits. They got a 48. That's a perfect, and that's got a really good fall too. When it comes to wacky rigging it and stuff like that, and that 48 will actually work great on several other techniques that we got tonight. So if you went out and bought a pack of 48s, you got a pack of worms there where you can drop shot, shaky head, and wacky rig with. So you kind of got to think about those things too as well. But you can't go wrong with Gary Amagato. I know they're a little expensive, but if you do like how this one is set up right here, it's got the rubber band in the middle. The O-ring, in the middle. And then you just got a regular finesse hook, octopus hook, whatever people like to use. People use different hooks for it. They actually Yamagatu's got some really good wacky rig hooks with a weedless guard on them. That's perfect. But this right here, this setup right here is perfect for the beginner or a kid. If you got a kid that's getting into fishing, this right here, perfect. You got to be careful with getting hung up a little bit more. But we got another technique down here that does really well with getting my kids to throw it when we go, and it works. Me and my son fished a tournament not last year, year before I think it was our first tournament together. We won, and it's just a club event. But I had my son throwing this bait that we'll be showing here in a little while, and he was catching. He was actually loading a boat before I was. He was excited. He was beating me. And he was helping out with our weight in the tournament. So it's another bait to kind of get the kids going. But this bait right here is really well with just helping you build your confidence in catching bass. Because once you start building your confidence in catching bass, then you can start moving on to other things. You get a bait that you're really good with, then move on to your next bait. And me and James talked about that. What was the last show, James, where you was talking about jig fishing? I know that's not one of the baits that we show on here, and the reason being is that can be an expensive technique, and it's a technique that you got to do for a while, and you don't catch a lot of fish, but you catch big fish. So that's why we didn't throw this. The baits we're putting in here is good numbers baits, but you can also catch big fish as well. So let's kind of go into our next thing. If I hope did I cover everything with that? Line wise,
I think so. I think that's the basics with that one.
Yeah. And just 8-pound test. The next three, this one, the shaky head I'm going to pull up now, and then the drop shot afterward. These are all 8. You can go with 8-pound test on this, and like I say, with that spinning rod combo. So, oh man. All right, so let's go to the shaky head. This is a bait I used to use all the time. Me and James actually had started J&J Custom Lures off of this technique right here years ago, back in the his day. But that bait we threw a lot. That was our confidence bait, and at Smith Mountain Lake, it felt like you could put it by any dock pole and you was going to get a bite at least, and it's a perfect little bait. I call it the kind of in-between bait, like throwing a Texas rig with a shaky head and kind of a jig. I call it that in-between. It's nothing like a jig when it comes to not having a skirt and all that, but you can still put this in the same places that you're putting jigs. You can put this in the same places where you're putting, Texas rigs. Stuff like that. You just got the head difference on them, though. See, like that one looks like it's got a round head on. I pulled these off the internet, so these are not pictures that I've taken. But this one looks like it's got a round head. Now, the awesome thing about the round head is they skip a little bit better than the footballs. But once you figure out how to skip the footballs, it kind of goes pretty easily. But the round head, I think, is a lot easier to skip. It kind of comes through the brush a little bit better. But your footballs are going to be a lot better on standing up, on rocks and stuff like that. I just think that's just another perfect bait to get you started like the wacky rig into catching numbers. And like I say, it's a big fish bait. James, kind of go in a little bit of your setup, what kind of worms you like to throw on the shaky head, and I'll go in and talk about, because I know we do a little bit different what we throw on our shaky heads, kinda.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, I used to throw just like a shaky head worm by Zoom. I use the 48s now, and I use trick worms. I like an 1/8 ounce. The size shaky head I like to use is the 1/8 ounce to 3/16 ounce. I normally don't go much bigger than that when I was throwing them a lot. Um, but that's about my setup. You can also throw, um, uh, shoot, like crawl baits on them,
Mm-hmm.
like all kinds. You can throw all kinds of different stuff on this technique. It doesn't necessarily got to be a worm.
Yeah.
I throw a lot of crawls. What was it? You can throw pocket crawls on them. You can throw, what was it?
Crawl father.
The crawl father. I've caught a ton of fish on the crawl father on it. Um, but I mean, any type of baits like that are small. The fusion, you can throw the fusion on it if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Um,
And the
all in all, it's
48s.
just a all around good. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just an all around good bait. It's especially good for kids,
Yeah.
like you're saying. You can put it on there. It's weedless. They can chuck it out there, and you're going to catch anywhere from, you can catch 10-pound fish on it, or you can catch 6-ounce fish on it.
Yeah.
So it's a good all around bait to
Yeah.
throw out there and start your kids out with.
And the perch love them. The perch will eat them daggone things up. Now, granted, I wouldn't recommend going perch fishing for them, but if you go bass fishing, you will catch a perch on it. I can tell you that right now. Um,
Oh,
but
it's not, you're going to get a bunch of bites.
yeah, exactly. Now, this bait here, and I don't know if it's just me or what, and I know other people probably do it differently, but I normally don't go much past stained water. I don't throw this bait much in muddy water. Now, if you go to a bigger body bait like a brush hog or a crawl in a dark color like a black and blue, you probably could, but I kind of stay away from that when I get to muddy water. I start throwing, spinner baits and big bulky Texas rig bait, stuff like that, and jigs when it gets muddy. So I normally don't go finesse when it gets muddy. So when it's clear, stained, I throw that. So the two main colors I throw is green pumpkin and watermelon seed, like a watermelon seed, red flake, stuff like that. So, but that's kind of a little bit on the shaky head. It's the same line as you would with the wacky rig. It's the same line that, like say, the next bait we're gonna be doing, same line, 8 pound. I don't go to 10 pound line. I don't know about you, James. I don't even use 10 pound line on these three techniques we got here.
No, I don't never. Mainly, I only use 8 pound
Yeah.
on everything.
So and like I say, we've talked about it. If you spend a little bit more money, you get better line. Like a Seagar Inviziex. I love Seagar Inviziex. Did I say that right? Inviziex. For some reason they're not a sponsor,
Yeah,
so.
does that?
But
Yeah, in Bizet. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and they're not a sponsor of ours. I've tried a lot of different line, and I just love Seagar. It's been great, especially in Viziex on the 8 pound. It's very soft line when it comes to fluorocarbon. It comes off the spool real easy. It's just a really good line. So, but like James said earlier, kind of getting off the topic of the shaky head a little bit, but it still goes along with it. You can get braid and put on there, and then go with the fluorocarbon leader. What that's doing is that braid will last you forever. So when you look at a spool of fluorocarbon line that's $20 for 150 yards, don't get intimidated because you're only going to take what I normally take, but like 10 foot off of there, tie a leader onto the braid, and then once I'm getting close, I'll cut that off, put a new leader on. You don't go through braid that much. You can use braid for a while, and you can switch braid from one reel to the other. That way, you're kind of getting the stuff that's been on the back end for a while back to the top. So, but anyway, so on that. Same setup as a wacky rig when it comes to your rod and reel. So there we go. We're still talking about the two combos, the bait caster and the spinning rod, and we're still using a spinning rod right now. So that way, if you only got one rod, you can start out with one of these three baits. This next one here got the drop shot. Now this picture actually I found today was really good on showing like how to set it up and where it's for and all that. So your finesse hook, you can use those same hooks for a wacky rig. I got some hooks that I do drop shot with that I can still use for a wacky rig, so that kind of saves you a little bit of money there when it comes to drop shotting and stuff like that. And the cool part about it is you can do like a 48, a zoom, trick worm, a zoom finesse worm. I normally, when I go to stuff like that, I don't go much over like 4-inch worms. So zoom finesse worms, stuff like that, robo worms, all those work really great. But you got your hook right there, tying a polymer knot. Don't clip off your tag in. Try to leave a long tag in. Now, this is the cool part. Drop shots have that little keeper on them. So you could actually tie a knot at the very bottom of your tag line and one in the middle. And that way you can kind of change the depth that your drop shot is sitting a little bit. And you'd actually be surprised at how much that changes sometimes. Because I've gone out with my buddy Chris, and he's got a super long leader, and I'm looking at him like, man, that's stupid. I don't say it, but I'm like, why you got such a long leader? But then he'll catch fish, and I ain't catching nothing. I got a shorter leader. And it's just those fish are suspended off the bottom a little more or what, I don't know. But we've had days where he's outfished me because he's had a longer leader. So that's a good thing. That's a good practice to do when you're tying a drop shot, is leave a little bit longer tag. So you can tie 2 or 3 little knots on there, and you can hook your weight on there, and you can change it real quick if you want to. 8-pound test. Fluorocarbon, I will say this. You can do this on mono, but fluorocarbon is game changer when you go to a drop shot. And then when you put braid with the fluorocarbon leader, it's even better. So, James, do you have anything to say on that, on drop shot fishing? Anything I missed on that?
No, I think you pretty much hit it all. And I would say any of these techniques, you want to make sure that you set your drag appropriately. That's one thing that we didn't go over.
Yeah.
You want to be able to make sure that you can pull this out pretty easily. You do not want to be able to set the hook on this thing and there is no give at all.
Yeah.
When you set the hook hard, drag needs to come out when you set the hook.
Yeah.
Just make sure you have your drag set properly.
Yeah. And this technique too, it's with the wacky rig and the shaky head and the drop shot. I do a little bit more with the shaky heads on a hook set, but on a drop shot, definitely I pull into it. I don't snatch it. I just kind of pull into them. I might give it a quick little jerk sometimes, but it ain't like a hook set with a Texas rig or a jig where you're trying to cross his eyes, when that hook goes in. These hooks are small, and if you just start putting pressure on them, it will pull that hook through his mouth. Just think, a smaller hook is a lot easier to get in a fish's mouth than it is a big thick hook like on a jig. So you don't have to lay into it as hard. But like James said, you want to have that drag set where it does that. It starts pulling drag out as you're setting the hook. You don't want it too light, but you want to be able to pull it out with not a whole lot of force on your hands when you're pulling the line off the spool. So that's a good point, James. We didn't cover that, and we'll get into the bait caster side of it. We'll talk a little bit about drag setup on that, because it's a little bit different with a Texas rig and a spinner bait. So, but other than that, yeah, just good line. I highly recommend fluorocarbon, but you can start with mono, especially beginning. But this technique right here, see, if you see how that hook is sticking through the nose of that worm right there, if you actually pull that through, I'll do that a little bit to start a hole, but then I'll pull that worm right back up on the tip of that hook. You can go a little more into brush and stuff like that. Not deep into it, but you have a lot less chance of getting hung up. This is what I love getting my son and daughter to throw here. It's just a perfect fish catching tool, man. It does really well at catching catching. We've caught some big fish, and if you look at Smith Mountain Lake, some of the techniques you see these big fish brought in are off of a technique like this at Smith Mountain Lake. So let's go into. All right, this is a Texas rig here. Now we're gonna get. This is where we're really getting into James's kind of fishing. I mean, I love throwing a Texas rig too, but where James lives at now, it's a bigger deal down there. Most of the year, Texas rigging. So, James, kind of go in and talk about your setup and why the rod selection we picked earlier is so important with this technique.
With a medium heavy rod, first off, it's got a little bit heavier backbone. So when you set the hook, because you're going to be using a bigger hook and everything like that, I would probably use that's a pretty decent sized worm there. I would go with something small like a 7-inch worm or something like that to start out with. But you can, like I said, you can use all different types of worms. And your hook size is going to be determined on what size worm you use. I'd probably use a 3 or 4/0 hook for a 7-inch worm, and then a worm like that's pictured now, you would go 5 or 6/0 even. A 3/16 ounce sinker. Now that I use a whole lot more, I go to tungsten. But when I'm first starting out, I would just buy lead sinkers because you're probably going to lose a lot.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I would necessarily peg it or anything. I do like colored weights. To me, it would be worth buying like black or green pumpkin colored painted bullet weights. And like, when you set your drag, you're going to have 12 to 14 pound test on this. I would probably throw 14-pound test on a Texas rig.
Yeah.
And when you pull your drag, you want to make sure that you have plenty of pull. Like you can wrap your hand, and it should have decent tension on your line when you set your drag. So for you to pull that line out, you should be able to pull it, but you should have to put a little pressure on it to pull it out. And that's the way I would set my drag, because you're going to have a little bit lighter tip, but it's going to have it's medium heavy, so it's going to have a little bit heavier backbone, so you can set that hook into them fish. So
yeah.
That's pretty much the way I would set that up. What would you do different?
No, I mean that's pretty much my technique. I set up, like say, when it comes to hooks and all that. When it goes to night fishing, which is a whole nother monster, sometimes it seems like it's a little more intimidating for people sometimes with night fishing, which it's basically the same thing. It's just, I guess it's more intimidating because you can't see, so you're assuming the fish can't see. But the only thing I do different when it gets to nighttime fishing is I put 2 beads between the weight and the worm. Glass beads, because it's just a lot better sound to it, a lot better tick. Plastic beads are fine if you're on a budget. And I can tell you what, if you're on a budget and you want plastic beads, go to the what do you call that department? The craft section. And a lot of times you can find
at Walmart.
Yep, and you can find these packs of little round beads. Don't get them crazy looking beads. It's got all this stuff hanging off of them and crazy looking stuff. You just get regular round beads. You can either get clear, or I like going with red, or black. That's my 2 main. I'll go clear, red, or black, and that's just depending on what color worm I'm throwing, all that stuff. So, kind of a tip saver on the lead. On the bullet weights. It's like James said, I love matching. I like having color on mine. So I either like having black or green pumpkin. The thing to do is, if you can't get to Bass Pro Shops and you can't, because I don't think Walmart really has many colored bullet weights, do they? Most of them are like lead, gray bullet weights, and they got tungsten.
Yeah,
but that's a whole nother monster as well. But a thing you can do, this is what I used to do when I was on a budget. I'd go buy the lead weights, and then I would go over and buy black fingernail polish or fingernail paint, and then I would buy like a brownish color paint because it's hard to find like a green pumpkin in fingernail paint. You got a woman painting her fingernails in green pumpkin, you better keep her because I like to know where she found that color at, anyways. Um, but you can do that, and then get the regular clear, the fingernail clear. It's a little process, but if you're sitting down watching fishing shows, get your old plastic cup. I like poking a couple holes in the top, put some toothpicks in them, and put your bullet weights on them, and then I just paint them. I just go down and paint them, and let them dry. Take them outside, let them dry, or whatever. Blow them, whatever you need to do. And that's just a simple little way, just that during the wintertime, you're trying to stock up on your tackle, stuff like that. There's a little tricks you can do. But it is a lot easier to go. You can go on Bass Pro Shops. You can go on Tackle Warehouse. Um, you can go to your local, like I say, your local tackle stores. They'll have painted lead weight, so it saves you a little bit of time there as well. So let's get down to. I don't have nothing else on that when it comes to Texas rigging. I'm kind of about done with that. This is the topic that I like. I love this. But I'm going to get your opinion first on it, James. And that's going to be spinnerbait fishing. Now, you can see this picture right here. This is matching the hatch. So, when it's pond fishing, though, you can really get technical with spinnerbait fishing. And that's a whole nother show. We ain't going to go into that tonight. But you can really get technical into spinnerbait fishing, but it doesn't have to be. But, James, I'll let you kind of take off with it. Talk about, why that bait casting setup again is crucial here for throwing spinner baits.
Well, first off, the medium heavy action rod, you're going to be throwing this stuff around cover, open water, and in and around a bunch of different obstacles is where you kind of want to throw. Is where I like to throw them. Of course, you're going to throw them in open water too. So having that, I would even go 12-pound test on this, but if you have 14-pound on there for throwing your Texas rig and you're throwing spinnerbaits, you can use the same line. It's not that big a deal. And you want to a chartreuse and white like it's pictured. Colorado willow leaves are good. You can go double willow, but don't overcomplicate it, in my opinion. Yeah. Just throw. There should be really only 3 different colors that mainly I throw. It's going to be either white, it'll be white and chartreuse, and it'll probably be black. It'll be the only 3 spinnerbaits that I would have in my arsenal. The only thing that would change for me differently would be blade combinations, and I like a really thin wire spinnerbait. So
yeah,
that's my only thing. Spinnerbaits, they don't last as long though. So if you're fishing farm ponds and everything like that, get you some Strike King spinnerbaits. They're a little heavier duty. You can, they'll last a long time, especially in farm ponds and stuff. But once you get to doing more and more spinnerbait fishing, go to a lighter wire. But you're going to go through so many more spinnerbaits.
Yeah.
It gets a little crazy. So go with something that's a heavier, super name brand. Anything that Walmart sells is really good. I would say War Eagles are really good spinnerbaits. They're actually got a little bit thinner wire.
And they're not priced bad.
But you want to try to match the hat. No, and they're not priced bad, but, when we go buy spinnerbaits, it's just different because we don't normally buy one.
Yeah.
But it's different blade combinations and all like that. And once you get to using this, there is nothing like throwing a spinnerbait and watching a bass flash up on a spinnerbait. It is something about that right there that just makes your heart stop. So when you're throwing this in and around trees, get ready.
Yeah, exactly. It's an aggressive bite. Now, James, I can't remember if you covered this or not. There's one thing I would recommend is getting a trailer hook. Now, if you buy certain baits like Strike King and all that, some of them, I don't think all of them do, but some of them used to come with trailer hooks. But um, the reason is you get a lot of short strikes with spinner baits. That means they're swatting at the blades, or they're just kind of hitting the back end and they're not getting it good. Now, if you're fishing cover, like laydowns, you got a bunch of overhanging brush, or you're going through grass, I don't recommend a trailer hook. But if you're fishing open water, say you're going up and you're fishing a rock bluff and the wind's blowing up on this bluff, or you just got a bank at the pond that the wind's blowing up on, it ain't a whole lot of grass, it's kind of bare, that's a good bait. That's a good bait to throw, and you can put a trailer hook on it. But if you're throwing heavy color, I wouldn't put a trailer hook on it. That's just my opinion. But other than that, like James covered it right. White, chartreuse, and black. That's the only three colors you need to really get started on spinner baits. Now, they make smaller ones. If you go to I know I keep using Walmart, and the reason why I keep using Walmart is a lot of people go there to buy baits that are just kind of get into the sport. Once they get into it and they want to explore more options, talk to more people about it, they start going into the big tackle stores. But if you're going to fish farm ponds a lot and you want to catch a lot of fish, they got some smaller spinner baits that are killer too. But the small bass,
Strike King.
Yeah. Now the small bass, they'll hit these bigger baits. I mean, I've caught several, 10-inch bass on a spinnerbait. So in a farm pond and all that. So they work perfect. My biggest thing I like to throw in a farm pond is double willow leaf until the water gets muddy. And you got a good turnover in your pond. You want to go straight chartreuse or black with a willow and a Colorado, or just straight Colorado. So take off that willow leaf, that blade that looks like a leaf, and it's just one big Colorado blade, which is the one that's in the middle there. It's just a big one, and you just work out one real slow. But that'll have to be a whole nother show when it comes to fishing a spinnerbait properly, because me and James could go. That's just like jig fishing. We could go on and on and on and on about every little fine detail. But just to get started, go to Walmart, go to Bass Pro, wherever, and buy you either Booyah, Strike King, War Eagle, in a white chartreuse or black, and start throwing it. Because I'm telling you, you will love it. If that thing starts to walking on you a little bit, where it's turning from side to side, now there's some little adjustments you can do. You can look it up on YouTube right now, but all it is mainly just adjusting the wire at the head, turning it whichever way that it's turning, kind of the opposite way that it's turning, helps it make that spinnerbait run true. You don't want it spinning, and you don't want it turning to the sides. You want everything straight up and down. You want them blades up top, and you'll catch fish. But this bait works great when it's cloudy, when it's windy, or both. It just, when the weather gets nasty, a spinnerbait is a great bait. That's a great bait to throw. So, but that right there, if you look at the two reasons why we said, the reasons why we said two setups, because you can have this tied on your medium heavy, and then you can go tie a shaky head or a drop shot or wacky rig on the other one. For instance, say that you're throwing a spinnerbait down by a tree line and one short strikes it, you don't get them, pick that wacky rig up and fire it over there. You got a chance at following up and catching that fish. It's always good to have a follow-up bait with a topwater and a spinnerbait. So, I see Set the Hook. He said, can you explain when to use different blades and the difference? I don't want to go into too much detail with it right now. There is another time for do a show like that, but if you look at that shad right there and look at the size of them, now a lot of people like to match the blade size, the main blade, to the shad size. Sometimes, now if you're chasing gizzard shad, you're going to have a big old spinnerbait. And there's another time for those big bladed baits when you get into chasing them during the summer stuff. But it's good to match your blade size to your bait fish. It's good to match your blade color kind of to your bait fish as well, but also your day and water color. So yeah, that I don't want to go into too much detail about that right now, because it's like I say, that's a whole nother That's a whole nother monster right there. But James, you
Oh
got any?
yeah, yeah. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, you can
Yeah, I
really.
mean, I think that's just the basics. That's the basics on a. And what we didn't go over is putting maybe a trailer on it, and you can
Yeah.
use. Zoom makes a spinnerbait trailer, which is almost like a little grub bait with two little tails on it, really. That's real tight. Or you can throw swim baits on them, different stuff like that. But don't overcomplicate this when you first start fishing because you can. Don't overthink it. Just get in there and get confidence with the bait because it will catch fish the way it is.
Yeah.
I would probably throw a trailer hook on it. You know, I think Dick's Sporting Goods has always been good about the spinner baits that they have on the rack have trailer hooks on them,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll buy. I think they got Lunker Hunt and Strike King ones there, and they'll have it pretty much pre-rigged. So if I was going to buy spinner baits, I would probably go to Dick's Sporting Goods just because it's pretty much a ready-to-go bait, and the ones that they have that are like that, they don't have all the fancy packaging and stuff on them. They're just kind of like something that just enough where you can stick it on the rack. That's
Yeah.
the ones I'm talking about. They're a lot cheaper, and you can buy instead of buying one spinner bait, you can buy you a couple different colors,
Yeah.
and be able to go out there and actually fish with them. And the thing about fishing is you're going to lose bait. So when you first start, don't get upset because you lost a $5 bait. You start getting really upset when you start breaking $30 bait.
Yeah.
So it and if you really get into it, you'll be like, I will never pay that much for a lure. You will spend that much on a lure if you stay in this long enough,
Yeah.
because there is a reason that you spend more money on baits. But when you're first getting started, don't overcomplicate any of this. It doesn't need to be expensive. You can go have a great time fishing
Yeah.
with just some cheap stuff.
Yeah. You hitting farm ponds. Heck, if you even go down to you go to your local lake and you just kind of find a bank you can fish off of. All these baits will catch fish. I'm not guarantee you'll catch them every time you go out, but eventually they will. And like we said in our last show, when it come down to jig fishing, and we just took our jig boxes out with some trailers and played with jigs, and that's all we threw until we started catching fish. And we've done that a couple times going out. Well, you didn't catch none on that time. Let's go out again and do it. That's the same way with some of these baits. You're just going to have to throw them. Don't throw it twice and think that you're going to, oh, man, this sucks. You got to throw it for a while. Spinner baits, you can cover water quick. If you go to a farm pond, especially if it ain't real big, and you've walked from the back to the front and you ain't caught nothing, you might as well put that dude on down. Go ahead and tie your Texas rig on there, and then start coming through flipping with your Texas rig and your wacky rig. But when I get to a farm pond, I start out with a reaction bait most of the time. I start out with a spinner bait or a chatter bait. But I don't want to get into that because that's a whole other thing too. But I start off with a spinner bait and go from there, And if I don't get nothing on a reaction bite, then I'll start slowing down and I'll start putting that wacky rig or the shaky head or whatever around some of that stuff until I start getting bites. And that bite will, sometimes within an hour, the whole bite can change. You start catching them on a Texas rig and all of a sudden it dies and you start hearing popping around the pond. Go back, pick that spinnerbait up again. They might start feeding up good. So, but yeah, just throw them. Don't throw it a couple times like, man, this ain't catching nothing. You got to throw it. You got to keep that bait in your hand. Sometimes if you're just starting to learn, it's just like a bait caster. Keep it in your hand. Don't throw nothing else until you have mastered that bait caster. And if you first start fishing a bait caster, don't go buy Seagar and VisiX fluorocarbon line, because you're going to be ticked off very quickly because all that line just bird nesting, because you will bird. Me and James both still bird nest. So maybe not as bad as we used to, but when first starting out, you're gonna bird nest. So get your cheap line, put on there until you get used to it, and then you can start moving up to your better line. So I don't have nothing else to cover on that, guys. It's that's kind of on here right now. If you got any questions on the basic parts of these techniques, Ask them now or forever hold your peace. I'm just kidding. And we plan on starting doing some more shows with more technique driven and in-depth stuff. I really want to get John Cruz on and kind of start doing some crankbait fishing. I'm working on that one, but I'm really excited about our next guest if we can get him on, because our next guest likes to throw everything right here plus more, and that's why I like watching him fish so much. What did he say? Bass Cat said, "Not a bird nest, it's a professional overrun." Hey, I like that. I'll have to use that more often. But James, you got anything else to add to tonight's show, man? I didn't want to look. Here we are, an hour and 11 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that's the basics to get you started, to get you catching fish, and to get you into this show is just driven on trying to get people started in fishing so they can actually catch a few fish and get you hooked. And hopefully this has been helpful. And that's about it.
Yeah. So if anybody's got any more questions on anything we covered tonight, you're more than welcome to message us. Best way to break down a lake with no vegetation. You know what, Brian? We'll work on doing a show for breakdowns. Me and James was actually talking the other night about doing. We got some really cool stuff we're working on and talking about, anyways. Hopefully, we can make it happen here in the next couple weeks. But it's going to kind of go along with some of that stuff that you guys are asking and talking about. So, but yeah, so we'll cover that. We'll cover that another time, bud. But yeah, like I say, just go out and go fishing. Take a kid and get them in it. It's a lot funner when you got somebody you can do it with and you're both learning at the same time. And try not to get frustrated, because it can be a frustrating sport. This is a sport that it is a good percentage rate of failure. So you're going to fail more times than you're going to succeed, when you go out fishing. So that's just something you got to accept with this sport, and just make the best of it and have a good time when you go out. And it's like I say, it's a bad day of fishing is better than a good day at work. So just enjoy the great outdoors. And like I say, take a kid fishing, take your wife, take your girlfriend, just go out and have a good time. That's what this sport's for anyways. Not to go out and make $1 million, but just to get out from everyday life, be stress free and clear your mind. And this is a good sport to do it in. So you guys, I'll be there. James ain't going to be there.
I will not.
Yeah, James is going to be fishing the English Choice tournament, so he won't be there, but I'll be there, and hopefully I can catch a fish or two, hang with you guys. But I'll be getting there late Friday night, so I won't have no time to camp out and hang out or nothing like that. I got to leave right after, too. I got a dinner date with my wife and her friends that night, so I'll be weighing in and rushing home, but I can't wait to see you guys up there and talk with you guys. So, well, guys, I'm done for tonight. I'm done talking. James, I hope you're done talking, because I'm about ready to go to bed.
I know, I'm tired.
It's been a long weekend, and we're only on Tuesday. So,
yeah, I know.
But guys, I appreciate everybody that's been viewing and listening, and if you can share our videos, that's great. It really helps us out a lot with getting some views and really grow this thing. Don't forget about our contest. Whoops, kicking stuff here. Don't forget about our contest. Sorry, like I said, I wasn't able to get some of the people's up tonight. I'm going to work on getting more up this weekend, and then I'm going to be posting it hopefully first thing in the morning about the contest ending the 31st. So everybody can get their fish in. We can have a lot more fish up here going through. So, James, get me that picture, and we can share with everybody what we're going to be giving away. What does Jason say? Shimano. Cheap Shimano. Yeah. Thanks, Jason. But, yeah, that was stupid on my part. But, anyways, guys, y'all have a great night, and we'll be talking with y'all guys again. Don't forget, we'll be doing another show next Tuesday, so I hope you can tune in and tell your buddies. James, I'll talk to you later, and y'all have a great night.
All right. Good night, everyone.